round one. Are you kidding me?
Let's go. A big rematch. This is what makes Pokemon competition work.
That's right.
These grudge matches, these history players. And you said it, Kyle. The history of competitive Pokemon is so long. Almost every player has history with another. We played in this tournament, they had this deck, but this is a more recent phenomenon from EUIC, a rematch from the finals, the redemption arc.
Yeah, this is pretty ridiculous. This never happens. I don't think you could write a better storyline. Gustavo Wada, a former world champion, of course the winner of the European International Championships with an incredible Urshifu VMAX Moltres deck, is playing against Frank Percic, who was second at Frankfurt, the European International Championship, playing his amazing Whimsicott V-Star deck. They're going to get a chance to try it, to run it again, and sure enough, Frank looks like he's playing a little run back of his deck from Milwaukee, and Gustavo is going with probably a little bit more of a consistent Palkia build, it looks like.
The Canceling Cologne has been a very interesting tech. The players, you know, once you get an idea of what the meta is going to be, if you played at Milwaukee, you kind of have an idea of what players might bring to this tournament. You can get a little bit mean with your tech cards. You're looking to shut down some decks, and I think that's almost the name of the game, right? We've seen it time and time again. A really strong deck shows up to the metagame, and immediately the most despicable, dastardly counter cards come out of the woodwork and just shut it down. We're going to see if Frank is going to be able to make it happen, especially against a newer deck that it's, you know, similar to like Suicune, that spread damage. You love to see it, but when you think about how do I approach countering a deck that's so new, you might try to approach that matchup from the wrong way. Oh, look at this mirror. Look at this Radiant Greninja start in the active. Radiant Greninja, one of the best cards from Astral Radiance, immediately just saw play in such a wide variety of deck because of the concealed cards ability. You can discard an energy card from your hand, and then you draw 2 cards. It's just fantastic for cycling through your deck and setting up so many synergies that can reattach those energies from the discard pile.
Yeah, this is the only time that we want you to conceal cards on stream, and we're going to see a lot of it. These decks love this engine right now. It's so easy to get set up, and of course, tons of Capacious Bucket, plenty of water energies. You make sure that you can cycle through your deck, get exactly where you need. Gustavo, finding that Sobble, probably feels fairly comfortable. It's a nice start. Let's see what that concealed cards has in store for him.
Yep, it's the classic setup. You get the Sobbles down, and then your engine comes online. The ability to quickly and consistently access the cards you need for any point in time has just become a foundation of the metagame. And when it comes to Radiant Greninja, also working to seemingly become another staple within the metagame. It's a great addition. I love it when decks can be very consistent because unfortunately when these players played in EUIC, it did come down to a little bit of a dead draw, that TCG curse that affects us all, big or small, at any point. Local championships, like just playing with your friends, you just get, you know, bad luck that way.
Yeah, no, that's something that Frank ran into, of course, infamously starting that Bidoof and trying to make his way through. Sure enough, the very first card that he does draw in the start of the North American International Championships, Bidoof. It's going to be his staple engine that he loves. He loves those industrious incisors drawing through his deck, adding some consistency. We're going to see plenty of consistency cards out of Frank. Yeah. Immediately, that big addition there in the Trekking Shoes.
Trekking Shoes. Fantastic for turboing through your deck. This has been one of the bases for these aggressive turbo-style decks that we've been seeing, like Palkia, Gengar, Dialga, and even finds the Battle VIP Pass. Every single deck has a little bit of this Mew energy now. Being able to consistently get the Battle VIP Pass, get set up. Frank pulls out the Ice Rider.
Yes, this is the fun one. Ice Rider Calyrex and Ice Rider Calyrex VMAX love doing damage. They hit hard and they hit strong and they do not stop. They are relentless. It's very exciting to see this on the main stage for us. And Frank, of course, important to note, I think that these are the lists that play one Battle VIP Pass because they love to search it out with the Irida. And he just starts with it. Are you kidding me?
That's so good because now you can save the Irida to find a different card down the road. If you can come out on top and get even more value out of each individual card is going to put you so far ahead, Kyle. Getting the Ice Rider set up, you can tell that Frank wants to get set up early and immediately start striking. There's been tons of decks like this in the metagame. You know, I think the Rapid Strike Urshifu was sort of the first deck that really demonstrated how strong it is to just get a big attacker set up in the active spot. If you can get 1 or 2 really solid attacks in, even if you haven't taken 6 prizes, your opponent just falls so far behind that they can't keep up. And already Frank is still popping off here, getting this beautiful foundation set up. Gustavo has the consistency with the solvables, but Frank has the power, already has the Dialga V in play, has the Ice Rider Calyrex and the Bidoof now to get that draw engine. The Industrious Incisors, you know, doubters are in shambles. I didn't know if that was going to be a very good line, and we saw the experimentation almost immediately. Is it a 2-2? Is it a 1-1? Players have been getting away with the 1-1, and when you're cycling through your hand this heavily, the ability to reload is just cannot be overstated.
Yeah, what a monstrous start here from Frank. Already the multiple energies on that Ice Rider Calyrex V. The Choice Belt as well, huge addition here because Gustavo is trying to get out a Palkia, the Origin Form Palkia V-Star, 280 hit points. Math lines up pretty nicely there.
Yeah, the V-Star. It's funny because for so long we were playing around with Arceus and having to worry about that star ability. But now with this star power for Palkia, you just get to accelerate those energies anyway. So you have that consistency of being able to set up a big attacker, but also have something that is way more threatening in its own right.
Yeah, that's right. Max Lance is a huge attack, 10 plus 120 for every water you discard. So 2 waters already online. That means 280 is online for Frank if he needs it. Honestly, probably not going to need that though. Gustavo missed the opening Origin Form Palkia V on the bench, so doesn't really have a threatening attacker lined up here.
Yeah, it's still trying to find a strong idea as we open up. The Irida finds the rare candy, allows to set up the shady dealings in Inteleon. You know, long gone are the days where it was, you know, 2 quick shooting Inteleon, 1 shading dealings. Now the shady dealings has truly taken over. And just by including rare candy, you know that the players value, I need these cards. It's like a pseudo Starbirth.
Yeah, this has been a really nice addition to the decks. We've seen it a lot in the Japanese lists, playing that 1 rare candy. And I think that Franco Takahashi is the reason that this is really starting to see a lot of form here, at least on this stage, because last week he performed excellently with that rare candy in his list. Being able to sneak out an additional attacker, find these extra cards when you need it, and sure enough, this is looking pretty nice.
When normally we think that things have gone really wrong when you have to pivot into an Inteleon and start dropping down those Aqua Bullets, but as long as your deck is prepared to properly take advantage of that, it does feel like a really strong boon if you can get it out in the early game. If your opponent has a slower start, they only have a couple Sobbles down, if you can suddenly jump out of the gates with this Inteleon. Unfortunately, Gustavo can't take advantage of that now, still trying to kind of fight from behind with so much threat, just waiting behind Frank's Radiant Greninja. And the fact that both players started with this card in the active is double lucky because you get that card draw, but also because of the new Radiant Pokemon mechanic, you can only have 1 copy of 1 Radiant Pokemon in your entire deck.
Yeah, this is huge. Gustavo set this up right now with the Irida and the Shady Dealings, finding the double cross switcher, allowing access to that retreat from the Greninja, swapping out those Pokemon, and bringing up the Ice Rider Calyrex V, getting some really important chip damage down, because as we know, Ice Rider Calyrex V Max, tons of hit points. You're going to need to work it down a little bit if Palkia V-Star is going to find a knockout on a following turn. So really nice to have a decent attacker in the active spot and maybe provide yourself an opportunity where your Origin Form Palkia on the bench isn't threatened.
Gustavo is not intimidated at all by Frank's big attackers that are already set up. They are only pseudo set up, right? No evolutions yet. The potential for another explosive counterattack from Frank is still there, but Gustavo already putting a lot of pieces together. clawing back into the starting setup of the game, is putting up a threat of his own. Ultra Ball discards Echoing Horn, has to get rid of a Palkia V-Star just to find another Palkia V to have this backup plan.
You could tell how important that quick ball was, just eyeing up what should you do in this situation. Has one of the last 2 cross switchers in hand and wants to make sure that he uses that to full effect, and then had the scoop up net, wanted to make sure Drizzile can continue to find supporters following on this turn. So has to throw away a Palkia V-Star, and now it doesn't have one of those big Palkia V-Stars to evolve into on the following turn.
It is looking pretty rough, right? Gustavo was able to put, despite everything, a really strong showing here. The rare candy into the Shady Dealings and Teleon, found the rest of the cards needed, but both players still have to find a real attacker here. And
yes.
Frank is the player that is in the position to get that right here, right now.
Yep, a double bench from Gustavo of the multiple Palkia, of course, was the most important portion of this turn. If Frank were to just find Boss's Orders and Ice Rider Calyrex VMAX, he would, of course, just remove that Palkia from the board. There'd be no attacker that could potentially knock out this Ice Rider Calyrex. So you love to see that Gustavo was able to set this up. Just depends if he was able to do that without sacrificing too much of his resources.
Sometimes, yeah, exactly. You have to burn through your resources early just for your setup, and then you have nothing to pivot to, nothing that you can truly threaten your opponent with after you get set up. And because you had to bench so many Pokemon just to set up a wall, right? So you have pivots versus Frank's incoming attack. You're playing directly into that subspace swell attack.
Yep, and of course, we're going to see a lot of Pokemon on the benches of these Pokemon players. They're going to be filling up the bench and getting that big attack up to 260 usually. It gets pretty big over here, so we'll see if that math starts to come into play. Of course, Frank playing some cards to help him in situations like that. We already see the Tool Scrapper in hand.
Tool Scrapper's been a fantastic tech card that's gotten better and better and better as time has gone on. Everybody's running that Choice Belt, trying to get that extra little bit of attack power. If you can, shut that off, you can buy yourself another turn or two. Also, the Pyukumuku getting pitched here. Yeah. You put this back on the bottom of your deck and drawing a card. When this card was first revealed, I thought it was going to be a little bit more widespread, to be honest. And now the metagame has evolved enough. Things have slowed down ever so slightly that something that just gives you an extra draw is perfectly acceptable these days.
Yeah, when you're playing so many different search ways to find your Pokemon, get them into play, it's so important that you give yourself an opportunity to turn those cards into draw. So when you have the Pyukumuku, you can go ahead and just turn into one extra card, and maybe instead of a Quick Ball, you have a Choice Belt, and you're getting a big knockout, or you top deck the Boss's Orders. So a really nice addition there by Frank, and it's a fun way to thin your hand down and continue to draw into all those big resources.
This Palkia is looking absolutely horrifying.
Yeah.
It's already got 2 energies on it, has the Tool Jammer on it, and in a weird way, it's kind of like putting an extra Choice Belt down if you're just negating that Poke Tool on the enemy active. Path to the Peak also coming down, making it a little bit more difficult for Gustavo to do what he wants to do. And now Palkia makes its grand entrance into the active spot. The 2 energies setting up for the subspace swell.
Yep, we got to see Frank making a tough decision. Of course, this deck does not play a lot of switching effects, so it goes for the manual retreat.
Takes an easy prize.
And the manual retreat without using the Star Portal is a pretty interesting way to play this match out. You've got the Path to the Peak that you're locking in on your opponent, but he did have an opportunity to use that subspace swell if he wanted, or that Star Portal, get some additional waters on board. Instead says, you know what, I'm going to save that for a different turn. I think I've got enough of threatening here with my active Palkia, and I'm not going to give you any of these Pokemon to potentially Boss's Orders out of the game if you counter this stadium.
And it just comes down to that resource management like we were talking about, Kyle, right? There's no Ice Rider VMAX as of yet, so getting the extra energies isn't super good at the moment. But by putting down this Path to the Peak, you're just forcing Gustavo to jump through a couple extra hoops. And right now, that just tells us, I think, that Frank is just feeling very comfortable with the position that he's finding himself in right here.
Well, Gustavo was looking at his cards, trying to find the best option. We saw that Raihan creep up into the searching effects, but going to go with the Melanie here. Maybe just needs a little more than one card, 2 or 3 to get the job done here. So big to see what comes off of this Melanie.
With so few cards right now, the Melanie does seem like a fantastic choice. Has the water energy attachment, and then drawing 3 cards here after the shuffle. 1, 2, 3. Did you find what you need, Gustavo?
Not sure yet.
I saw water energy, battle VIP pass.
I don't know if this was very good. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, look at this. You have to attach this to the benched Palkia and just pass back. No V-Star to evolve into to get the counterattack subspace swell. The Ice Rider has the damage on it. You already said preparing for a future KO. But now, with so few resources in hand, Gustavo can't capitalize on the setup from the prior turns. Frank is now in a position to just hit back even harder, get further ahead.
It was going to be a huge draw if Gustavo were to find it. It would be, of course, having the water energy, which he did have. He needed to have the evolution. He needed to have a Pokemon for his bench, and then he needed Echoing Horn to get it all done. And that's just a lot to ask from the top of your deck. So I think Gustavo going to be just fine here with the water attachment. Maybe lean into a Roxanne play on the following turn, as it's likely you're going to lose this Palkia in the active spot.
That is a very interesting line, right? If when you're far behind, you start to plan around, you know, your bailout card. You need to say, okay, I know that I'm going to fall behind. How do I deal with this situation? And if we can get that Roxanne in a key turn, suddenly Frank is the one with no cards in hand, really struggling to capitalize on any situations that are going on the board.
Yeah, you can see that Frank already understands the importance of that and how that play can affect him. Made sure to get that Beaver roll down as early as possible. Has the Industrious Incisors that can refill the hand, but we also see a lot of play from this hand right now, trying to thin it down, thin the hand and the deck down as low as possible, so that every draw is live here as you're trying to close out game 1.
Yeah, just tons of options. Once you get all of your main attackers in play, you've got your supporting Pokemon in play with the Radiant Greninja and the Bibarel, you kind of stop caring about, you know, your hand. You're just going to keep swinging in with your Palkia V-Star until all the prizes are taken.
Yeah, we see through the deck, Frank has at least triple cross switcher in his deck right now, and that is a great way to close games out here. If you can draw into an Irida, maybe get one lucky piece off of your Bibarel, you're just lined up to take those easy prize cards right now. We see that Crobat V, just an easy target right now for Frank potentially on a following turn. So sure enough, having those resources lined up is going to be great. We see the Capacious Bucket as well, getting additional energy down. Pyukumuku getting in there, getting an extra card. What's not to love here?
Yeah, you said because Frank was able to get the Battle VIP pass early, Irida can now just get the Pyukumuku back, and just it becomes a bonus card. Capacious Bucket was already cashed in, putting the air balloon down in the Bibarel again ahead of time. We've seen it before. When players fall behind, they go for like a boss's orders, pivot, where they try to strand something in the active, buy more time. Frank already cutting off all of these options before Gustavo has a chance to exploit any potential weakness.
And sure enough, that's how you close the game out here in game 1. Frank with checkmate on board in this huge Palkia matchup, and Ice Rider Calyrex, not really the star here, but definitely the fear that it put into Gustavo was a huge component in how this game turned out for Frank.
Excellent showing from both players, right? Approaching Palkia from 2 different angles like we talked about, Kyle. It's not just about having a strong win condition for your deck, taking advantage of the new big shiny poster child Pokemon of the set. You've got to figure out the supporting cast, and you've got to play well. And Frank, as you already told me before we hopped onto the booth today, you know, is just a ridiculous deck builder.
He is the man when it comes to deck building. He knows the insides and out. I'm sure he knows every single card you could potentially put into a deck in the standard format, and he will find the ultimate 60 that he needs to get there. Funny enough, he posted on Twitter this list from the previous tournament in Milwaukee. Says, I got 30th place. Deck felt like it was good. I'm not going to run it at NAIC.
Oh, the mind
Are
game.
you kidding me? And sure enough, here he is getting his redemption shot from EUIC against Gustavo, takes game 1, and he is looking good.
You know, he went through an entire deck searching existential crisis leading up to this event. Said, no, I just got to play what I've been practicing. It feels good. Maybe after reflecting on the matches a bit, said, you know what, it was just a bit unlucky. And it's showing up here, right? Frank is playing very well, very clean. Obviously super confident, knew exactly what he was searching for the entire time. As we jump into the game,
no.
Kukamuku is prized. No, our little guy, he's not going to get pitched for a little bit until we get to the mid game. But now as we get into it, a completely different setup. Sobel in the active, Hisuian heavy ball actually being utilized here. A fantastic tech card. You get to look at your prizes first of all. But then you get to choose a Pokemon there and swap it with the heavy ball. That way you can just get access to that one missing piece. We've seen it. Oh my, it's always so heartbreaking, Kyle, when that one Pokemon you need is in the prizes. And I remember back, it was way back at Salt Lake City where player looked through their deck, saw that all their attackers were prized, and immediately scooped. Yep. And so Hisuian heavy ball, you know, taking some of the weight off the shoulders of these deck builders.
Yeah, of course, limited to just those basic Pokemon, so Gustavo really looking through, trying to see, is that Palkia there? I need to have at least 1 or 2 Palkia down in the early game here to make sure that I have an opportunity to find that Palkia V-Star and get some big attacks off. And sure enough, doesn't have to worry about that there. Would have liked to see at least 1 basic Pokemon, but at least has some valuable information.
And with the Radiant Greninja, you know, Gustavo, once again, using the Sobel package, is valuing a strong foundation and a level of just consistency. Finding the tools you need for the task at hand. But this is, everything that's being developed right here is not a threat to Frank at all. So if we can see Frank just get set up with Palkia V-Star like an evolution next turn, this could spell disaster.
Frank loves seeing this. There's no Palkia down right now, and a Crobat is being played. That just tells you Gustavo's hand is awful. There's no Drizzile right now. There's nothing to work in there. Tries to use the Dark Asset ability to load the hand back up, and I don't think that it found anything too relevant.
Yeah, quick ball, discarding Leon. You know Gustavo sees the writing on the wall as well. I'm getting rid of the Leon because I have no threat potential right now. I don't need to boost the damage that's not there. Finds, at the very least, Palkia V. We know the V-Star is in hand, and this is the snipe, right? There's the chance for Frank to maybe set up some other sort of attack. Trekking Shoes, getting a little bit of consistency engine up of his own.
Well, Frank has some really good cards in his hand. When you rip a quick ball off of Trekking Shoes and have to think about it, you know that your hand is going to be good. And Gustavo's like, are you kidding me, man? You're thinking about quick ball? I'm over here with Cross-Switcher Palkia Scoop Up Net, trying to play against one of the best players in the world.
Scoop Up Net is truly the real MVP. It's such a good card, so versatile. The ability to recycle your evolution effects, your Pokemon's abilities, having it act as a pseudo heal, getting out of a jam when something's stranded in the active. It does it all, baby.
Well, we need Drizzile to make it the best. Or we need Water Energies to reuse that Radiant Greninja, because right now it is a bad card. But Frank, of course, loading up right now, already has the water from the concealed and the Irida. Ooh.
Irida off the top. This is going to allow you to search even more for the card you need to put power into this engine. Rips the battle VIP pass, getting it down here, and it's looking for Kukamuku, but it's not there.
Maybe not on the opening search, but at least got to see if it's in the deck, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I say it every time I'm on the desk. Players, viewers at home, this is the one skill that, you know, every competitive player tells you that you need to develop. You need to be able to look through your deck and identify what is in the prizes so you can continue to sculpt your game plan and continuously adapt to the state at hand. One of the few things in this card game that you can control is knowing what is missing.
Yep, I know a lot of pro players that on their travels, if they're taking a train, if they have a friend who's driving, or if they're on a plane, they'll take their deck, they'll take it out, they'll put 6 prizes down, and they'll try to test themselves. See, can I find out all 6 prizes in a minute and a half? How long does it actually take me? And they get very good at this.
Yeah, and with these rounds being timed, it becomes even more important. Now the format has slowed down a little bit. We don't have these games being decided in 1, 2, 3 turns. We've got Sobble engines popping off left and right, tons of deck search. This eats up so much time. And if you can be the player that can quickly identify your prizes, quickly identify your strategy, your line of play before your opponent, you are going to be so much more ahead, building up a nice, chunky time bank for yourself so you can take the extra time to think when the chips are truly down. And as I'm rattling on, Frank is continuously setting up the all-star cast on the bench. Double B-doof.
Yeah, he's looking right now, ideally for maybe a Melanie on the following turn, have some additional water acceleration before using your Palkia V-Star. Are you kidding me? Gustavo just passes.
Wow, no! This is, oh no. The curse has flipped Kyle.
Oh.
Gustavo has the consistency, has what he wants at when all the cards that you have in your deck, you can search them out almost at a whim, but you just have no threat potential, no offensive power. If your opponent is building a deck and playing against you in a more aggressive style, you just can't take advantage of the value that you're looking for.
This is so big. If Frank Friend's the cross switcher here, he has big knockouts lined up. I don't know if we see it just yet. Is there an Irida in that hand?
Searching through the discard pile, trying to figure out what the line is. Has a Marnie.
Maybe a Melanie, perhaps? What is going on in that hand? Oh, we're going to see Silene flips. 1. Go ahead and throw 1 on top. The Irida going to be the card on top there. So setting up for next turn a little slower. Gustavo has to love seeing that, but he does not love seeing Path to the Peak. That shuts down so many top decks for him.
All right, so it's back over to Gustavo.
No. Okay, I see water energy and I see dice flying, but he found the water for the Radiant Greninja, but he can't use it because of Path to the Peak.
It's not looking good. It is not looking good. Gustavo has one last chance to try to make something happen, but Frank just puts down the path. I remember this card has the ability, like I said, it's a dastardly tech. It can shut down a lot.
Wow, what?
And the 2-0, they're shaking hands here.
That is going to be it, I guess. Yeah.
The round 1 rematch. Frank is able to reverse the curse and set up on round 1 of the Swiss with a decisive 2-0. And you know that this just is going to give him so much confidence and energy heading out through the rest of the tournament, right? This player essentially was thinking, I wasn't going to bring this deck. You change your mind, you trust your gut, you trust your jellies.
Yeah.
And it pops off for you absolutely here in round 1 against your greatest rival, dare I say.
Yeah, Bidoof Pass Who. Frank Percic has evolved, and he is absolutely dominating here on the main stage. Gustavo, of course, would have loved to give more of a match here, but honestly, Frank had a really nice lineup there. His matchup looked pretty strong, and that deck was firing on all cylinders.
We see the potential, right, of approaching the game in a much more aggressive manner. When you get just a big threat in your active spot, your opponent